welcome to yet another video on my solo playthrough of Axis and Allies Revised. This video covers the third German turn, and I have to admit it was a pretty disastrous turn for them. They attempted to invade Caucasus, which was actually a slight oversight on the part of the Russians. They only had 3 infantry and an AA gun there. So the Germans moved up their transport loaded with an infantry and an artillery, along with a battleship, to the Caucasus. In this case, it's actually allowed to do that in this game. In many other Axis and Allies game, the Bosporus Straits are actually closed, or the Dardanelles Strait, whatever they're called. Here they're not, so the Germans actually landed. They had some fighter support as well, but it went pretty disastrously. The battleship missed, and well, the Russians scored a few hits, so I think even the fighter was destroyed. So yeah, it wasn't a very it was pretty much a failed attempt by the Germans, and the same was true for Ukraine, which they attacked with many more forces, including 7 tanks. 6 of those actually managed to retreat, but on the first Russian roll they scored like 5 hits, the defending infantry, that is. The Germans did pretty well themselves as well. They also inflicted more or less the same, but having been completely robbed of their infantry support, they decided to retreat their tanks, obviously. And they also attacked Belarus with 3 infantry or 4 infantry and a fighter, and the Russians had a similar force minus the fighter, and there's only 1 German unit left, and so that didn't go too well either. And I believe they also attacked Western Russia and suffered a few casualties, and the Russians suffered none whatsoever. They reinforced Norway by an infantry from Karelia. They built 2 new infantry in Karelia. They landed a fighter there, and they shipped over 2 infantry from Germany. But it's quite under threat now. The Russians might actually decide to attack it. It will cost them, but they have enough forces to do so. And here in the south, they could just push on as well. Yeah, so that's basically what happened on the German turn. That they bought, I believe, 10 infantry and an artillery. Some infantry were placed in southern Europe. The other infantry, along with the artillery, were placed in Germany, and some infantry that was already there was moved to France, and some other infantry was moved to Eastern Europe. So yeah, defensively the Germans aren't doing that poorly, but of course what they should be doing is pressing hard into Russia. Speaking of that, they did also strategically bomb the Moscow factory, which was undefended by an AA gun. Do note that in this game, units actually get to shoot, that is, anti-aircraft guns also get to shoot at air units simply overflying them, which wasn't actually the case in the strategic bombing raid, but it was, for instance, the case in the attack on Caucasus, in which a fighter plane moved from Eastern Europe across Ukraine to Caucasus, and but it wasn't destroyed in that way. But it is important to remember that actually they get to fire twice then, essentially. So that's it for the German turn, and well, they're not doing too well either, and the Japanese are simply doing terribly. So it looks like the game might not last all that much longer. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time.